Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Well, hello everybody and welcome to this week's very special Astro Weather Report. This week we are looking at the energies that are playing out between the 4th to the 11th of March, and of course we have a super big event occurring, an event that only happens once every 2.5 to 3 years, so it's going to impact us very strongly. So all the energies that we've been expecting that's going to not blow up, but explode into our life this March begin this week. Before I get to that though, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video, video channel, YouTube channel, to go into the competition to win a solar return report for March. So you can win a written report from Guiding Star Astrology, and a solar return report is simply a look at the year ahead based on the chart of the moment the sun returns to its natal position in your chart. It's a very wonderful technique that astrologers use. If you would like to purchase a solar return report, they're available at the Guiding Star website. The link's in the description below. But I do need to announce our February winner, the winner of the February solar return report or year ahead report. And I hope I say the name correctly. Forgive me for my poor Australian pronunciation. But the winner, drum roll, is Marsha, now I'm going to spell this, Damjanovich, Damjanovic. So Marsha Damjanovic, you have won yourself a solar return report. Please contact me through the contact form at the Guiding Astrology website to get the ball rolling to receive your year ahead solar return report. Congratulations, Marsha, and thank you for following here at the Guiding Star Astrology YouTube channel. It's so lovely to have you as part of the audience. Okay, so I need to also mention coming soon, I'm going to be releasing this month, the intermediate level of the Royal Stars Academy. So if you want to be notified when that release happens, it's probably going to be more towards the end of March at this rate, then do sign up to the Royal Stars Academy, links in the description below, and sign up so that you can get email notification of when the intermediate level goes out. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be a huge course. We're talking upwards of 80 hours of astrological study, sharing all my knowledge about the planets, about astronomy, about predictive techniques, you name it. This is going to be an incredible course. You don't want to miss it. Also, workshops are beginning this month for my huge class who have joined me for the introductory level. So many attendees as part of the introductory level of the Royal Stars Academy this year. If you're in this class, please keep an eye on your inbox for notification of when the workshops will start and how they're going to work. That will be coming your way very soon. So let's look at this week's astro weather. Well, the biggie, the big one that we've been waiting for, Saturn leaving Aquarius. I'm quite glad about this fact. You know, you would think Saturn in a sign that he rules would have brought more benefit than what we've seen over the last 2.5 to 3 years, that's for certain. But hey, life rolls along. On the 8th of March, it's the 8th of March in Australia, but it's at 12:37 a.m. in the morning. So only just the 8th of March where I live in Australia. The rest of the world, 7th of March, okay? So I'm going to refer to this as sort of being the 7th of March. On the 7th/8th of March, Saturn moves into the first or 0 degrees of Pisces. Now, this is occurring, quite interestingly, 1 hour after the full moon in Virgo. That's got tremendous significance. I talk about that in my recent Patreon All Signs breakdown. Also in that All Signs breakdown for the full moon in Virgo, I do refer to what it means if you have planets in your natal chart that are conjunct the full moon and what's going to bring for you. So you don't want to miss that report. Sign up to Patreon if you would like to get access to a monthly full moon report, monthly new moon report, and all sorts of astrological goodies thrown in between. But back to Saturn. It's occurring 1 hour after the full moon in Virgo that Saturn moves into 0 degrees of Pisces. And he's going to be in Pisces until May the 24th, 2025. So we've got a good long period of time, Saturn in Pisces. What's that going to mean for us? What does this 2.5 to 3 year period mean for us? It means that now is the time. Now is the time for Pisces things to be emphasized here on Earth, in the world. And I'm glad of that because I'm Pisces rising, so I'm like, bring it on. I want more of the good Pisces stuff. There will be a shadow side. I'll also talk about that. But now is the time for Saturn things, duty and responsibility to the collective. Pisces is we are all one. We are all connected. And so Saturn in Pisces is saying we need to be dutiful. We need to be responsible to everyone. So it's not so much a sign of equality. That's more of an Aquarian energy, is equality. And we've certainly seen great inequality, I must say, over the last few years. A tremendous emphasis and highlighting of the inequalities in our world systems. So hopefully now that Saturn moves into Pisces, we can highlight what we need to do to bring more equality, to live up to our duties and responsibilities, to care for one another, for the collective, for the whole world. So I do hope that this brings more equanimity amongst people, more love, more kindness, more compassion. Saturn here is in the sign of greatest compassion, and in the most positive expression of this transit, Saturn's going to call us to level up, to master, to mature into worldly compassion for everyone, regardless of race, creed, or color, to work hard towards a global ideal. Pisces is so idealistic. It sees the vision for what could be, how beautiful things could be, how perfect things could be, and that's what Pisces wants. The beauty of oneness, the beauty of perfection. And Saturn is calling us to master more of that in our world, to work hard. Saturn is to work hard. So we want to work hard towards a global idea for beauty, for love, and the highest ideal for divinity on earth. This is the ultimate expression of Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is not debilitated in Pisces, my friends. Thank goodness. So we're going to see that the highest expression will be here unfolding on earth over the next 2 to 3 years. There will be a shadow side. I will talk about that in just a second, but I want to emphasize the good that's coming right now, and let's focus on that. Let's build that in our lives. Let's live that in our everyday experiences so we can live the highest manifestation of this energy and build a better earth. It's time, while Saturn's in Pisces, to restructure anything Piscean. So artistic things, that we might be thinking of the film industry. There might be a restructuring of the film industry, and maybe that needs to happen. We know we've gone through the whole process of, the Harvey Weinstein issue, and we know that there's a lot of evil in the film industry, particularly the Hollywood, perhaps not so much European cinema. We know that there is an evil pedophilic energy in that realm. So Saturn in Pisces might be saying it's time to restructure that. It's time to change the hierarchy of the film industry. There might be a restructuring of poetic influence on the world. I mean, let's face it, poetry's really taken a dive since the days of Keats and Wordsworth and Shelley and all those wonderful, wonderful, beautiful romantic poets of the Romantic era. Well, Saturn in Pisces might see people mastering a more poetic approach to life. The positive side of this energy. We might see people, incorporating more poetry into who they are. We might see, for example, Pisces has to do with advertising and marketing. So we might see more poetry incorporated into advertising and market ads with, poems or songs or, beautiful lyrics or something like that. There's a restructuring of the influence of the poetic. And by poetic, I'm not just meaning the Wordsworth Dances with the Daffodils kind of poetry. It's more a poetic, romanticized influence on our advertising, our marketing, our structures in the world. So a more poetic influence. We might also see a restructuring of spiritual things. I feel we're going to see a lot more spiritual masters start to emerge in society. People who rise up as maybe gurus, because Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces and Jupiter is known as guru. So we might see a changing of the guard regarding who our gurus are, who our spiritual leaders are, who our spiritual masters are in society. That may happen. Do keep your wits about you. This can be a very, very positive thing. It's new spiritual masters. Saturn is mastery, Pisces is spirituality. But be very wary of deception by people who would be spiritual masters but are not, because that's also a shadow side. We'll talk about the shadow energy shortly. We might see a restructuring of foreign things. For example, changes to borders, changes to boundaries, changes to countries. Foreign places might have their Saturn is boundaries in the house. The sign of foreign places and foreign influences. We might see a changing of countries' borders, countries' boundaries. Saturn is the borders, Saturn is the boundaries. And Pisces here can bring change to that. Another reason why Pisces might bring a change to that is that Pisces is the energy of dissolution, to dissolve something. There might be dissolving of borders, dissolving of boundaries, dissolving of countries. There might be a dissolving of restrictions regarding travel. This is one way it can manifest. It can also go another way. Pisces is the energy of dissolving. Saturn is restrictions and blockages. So there may be, for some of us, an experience of dissolving of blockages and restrictions that have held us back from traveling. And certainly many of us know the experience of not being able to leave our country for over the last 3 years. So Saturn in Pisces can see that ending. Currently I can't enter the United States. It's driving me bonkers. So hopefully Saturn into Pisces will dissolve that boundary and that restriction and that blockage in my life. That would be good, wouldn't it? So foreign things, foreign travel. Saturn here is restriction and rules. We might see a Pisces dissolving of restrictions and rules regarding travel as well. Childcare. It's interesting that Pisces people are very strongly associated with childcare. We usually think, the moon and Cancer, they're the childcare nurturing energies, and they are. But in the Vedic system, Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, rules children. And so there is an association with Pisces people who are very strongly drawn to children and a childlike heart because their ruler is Jupiter. I will also add that in a Pisces rising chart, let's have a look here, Pisces as the rising sign, Cancer, the nurturing, child-caring energy, is in the house. It becomes the house of children, 5th house. So there is a strong influence on childcare in a Pisces energy. And so here we go with Saturn into Pisces and childcare being the theme. Finally, we might see some structures and a restructuring of the childcare industry. Maybe, and I sincerely hope this is the case, we finally start to deal with the pedophilia in society that is far too rife, and the woke culture that is trying to corrupt and destroy our children. So I am so excited by this positive potential expression of Saturn in Pisces. Bring it on. This is my prayer. Protecting our children. Saturn puts boundaries in place. It blocks, so there is going to be rules, there's going to be regulations, there's going to be boundaries regarding what we can and cannot do in terms of how we care for our children. And I hope it's for the best, dealing with pedophilia, dealing with woke culture and the destruction of our children's genital health, let's say, for the lack of a better word that's not coming to my mind right now. So very, very excited to see Saturn in Pisces for that reason. Let's talk about the shadow. There's many, many more things, but that's where a lot of restructuring, I feel, is going to occur. Now, let's talk about the shadow of this 3-year energy, okay? There might be restriction and blockage to the experience of the beautiful and the idealistic in the world. So we've talked about a positive manifestation. Now this is the dark side. We have an ideal for what the world could be and how we could all get along and how we could develop more peace in the world, and there's a restriction and blockage to that happening. There could be restriction and blockage to our personal spirituality and our creativity. And quite frankly, I've actually felt this a little already as Saturn hasn't moved in yet as I'm recording this video. But I'm feeling this, and I'm usually quite a spiritual type person, Pisces rising, of course. But I have felt less inclined this week to pray, to light my incense, to play my singing bowl, and do my little spiritual practices. So I'm just curious, maybe as we move into Saturn in Pisces, there's going to be more of a block to feeling drawn to spirituality, to feeling that our spirituality is effective, or our spiritual practices are effective. We might also feel, if we're in a creative field or a creative industry, some of us might feel that our creativity is blocked and restricted, like it's not flowing the way we usually experience it. There might be too many rules and regulations that are applied to our lives that repress our ability to flow with life. I hate rules and regulations, quite frankly. I highly Uranian for a start, highly Piscean, another thing, and I don't like them. I don't like being told what to do. So I'm not looking forward to that if that is what manifests for us in the shadow aspect of Pisces here. Of Saturn here in Pisces. We could also find there's a lack of imagination in the world. We might find Saturn restricts and blocks our ability to imagine what it's like to walk in another person's shoes, to understand where they're coming from. That's so important, to be able to have empathy, to be able to have compassion for other people. You need to understand what they might be going through, what they might be feeling. And Saturn in Pisces, for some of us who are less evolved, less high vibrational, we might be experiencing a lack of compassion because we just cannot picture what it's like to be in another's shoes. Now, Saturn is leadership. Saturn is the government officials. And of course, that can, unfortunately, Saturn in Pisces might indicate that they lack the ability to understand what it's like to be an ordinary person. And they're not compassionate enough to the ordinary person, to the people like you and I. So that's something we need to be aware of. We're already seeing signs of this in our society, but Saturn in Pisces, sometimes in the shadow energy, can block or restrict the compassion of the leadership. There can be difficulties with traveling. So I've talked about, perhaps changing of boundaries in countries' boundaries and, restructuring travel and travel systems and going to other countries and things. But there can be restrictions and blockage to travel, which really concerns me greatly, actually. So let's hope that doesn't actually manifest, but it is a potential combination of Saturn in Pisces. Too many rules repressing who can travel, who can go where, who can do what. And we do know that the dickheads who run the world really want to see that happen. So we might have to take a stand, my friends, against the restriction and blockage of our ability to be free, to travel, to go to different cultures and other places and take spiritual homages and journeys, to interact with people from other cultures by going and experiencing their world, So forewarned, forearmed, my friends, this could be something that unfolds. Pisces is to relax. Pisces is to escape. And here, Saturn in Pisces might bring some obstacles to our ability to relax and escape. You know, taking a holiday might be more difficult. Quite frankly, in Australia, who can afford it at the moment with inflation going bonkers? You know, so there is difficulty going on holiday for simple affordability reasons. It's already happening. So Saturn in Pisces can influence our ability to take a break and take a holiday. New rules might emerge now, Saturn in Pisces, for travel. So we've already talked about that, but there could also be new rules emerging for medical care as well. Pisces is medicines. So there might be rules and restrictions and regulations regarding medical care and what medicines you take. Dear God, let us pray that this does not bespoke a ridiculous vaccine passport to restrict the movement of people who do not get certain medicines, so-called medicines that are purely deceptive. There might be new rules. Pisces is prisons. There might be new rules regarding incarceration that Saturn brings about, for better or worse. Let's hope that those of us who believe certain things about our world and life right now are not incarcerated for our beliefs. Anyway, let's not talk any further about the shadow side of Saturn in Pisces, because starting to bring me down. Keep in mind that while the ruler of Pisces, which is Jupiter, is in a healthy condition in Aries, thumbs up. That means that the troubling signatures of Saturn in Pisces are going to be lessened, because the dispositor of Saturn in Pisces by transit is doing very well. Jupiter loves to be in fire signs, okay? So thumbs up, things are not going to be quite so heavy duty while Jupiter's in good condition as the dispositor of Saturn by transit in Pisces. But just a word of warning, my darling friends, hold your breath for Jupiter in signs of difficulty over the next 3-year period while Saturn is in Pisces, i.e., whenever Jupiter is in either air signs or earth signs. Things could get heavy going then, because Jupiter does not like to be in earth signs, Taurus, or air signs, Gemini, which they'll be on the cards over the next 3-year period. So, deep breath, let's make the most of Jupiter in Aries and all the positivity that this could bring about for us before we have to go into some of the more heavy expression. So, what can we do while Saturn is in Pisces to improve our lives, to cope with this energy, to bring in more positivity into our journey? Well, it's really a time for lessening our materialistic focus. Pisces is letting go of the material. That's what Pisces is all about. Saturn is a very material planet. It is very much all about the earth realm and life in the earth realm, life in the body. But too much clinging to material worldly things can actually make us very vulnerable during Saturn's transit of Pisces. We can be more susceptible to diseases, to illnesses, to loss and deprivation. But Pisces wants to teach us to let go and let God. If you are adept at letting go and letting God, you're not clinging to, where you have to live and the kind of car you have to drive and having all the latest brands and clothes and eating in all the fancy dancy restaurants. If you don't give a hoot about all that stuff, then you probably breeze through this transit, and you might find that your blissful state of spiritual oneness actually increases as a result of Saturn's journey here. If you cling to things like this, like I said, you'll be more susceptible to suffering loss and suffering a lack of well-being. So that's something that you can apply to your life. Work hard now at lessening your attachment to the material while Saturn is in Pisces, and as we go into this transit of Saturn in Pisces. It's also highly recommended that you take care of your body and its energy systems now. You need to get all the rest and relaxation you can, even though to some extent Saturn might be blocking and restricting this. So, even if you can't go away for a holiday by the beach or your usual getaway, maybe some time at home alone is in order. Maybe it's time to sort of, just spend a couple of days reading books out on the back lawn or something like that with a, big tall glass of iced tea and enjoy the rest and relaxation you can have in your home, perhaps, but take regular breaks, take regular holidays, no matter what they look like, even if that's, having a friend around for a cuppa one afternoon, and maybe you can't go down the street to a cafe or something like that, but having a break by having friends around and resting and not pushing yourself to work. No pushing yourself to bursting point. Saturn in Pisces. It's not healthy. It's not good. It's not what Pisces is all about. You'll suffer the consequences. Now, another thing you can do for your body is focus on lymphatic brushing and massage. This is highly recommended. So please get into a routine with that as soon as you can. Learn where all your lymph glands are located in your body. Learn what dry brushing techniques can do for you, and start applying that kind of thing now on a regular basis. Also, while Saturn is in Pisces, to take care of your health, eat lightly, no sort of heavy kind of weighty foods, drink more fluids. Pisces is a water sign, and above all, avoid toxins wherever you can. No unnecessary medications, no crap food, or as little crap food as you can manage. Limit your alcohol, and of course, limit your exposure to pesticides and chemicals too. Regular body detox is really, really valuable while Saturn's in Pisces. Why is that? Because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and therefore it's about endings. It's about letting go. It's about releasing things out of the system. But Saturn wants to block your ability to release, to block the ability of the body to let go of toxins. So it tends to hold on to toxins while Saturn's in Pisces. So our body needs support to detox now, to detox from all those nasty things that I've just listed. So eat well, drink plenty of fluid, and avoid toxins where you can, to support your body in the detoxification process, which might be a little impaired for us while Saturn moves through Pisces. So now I'm going to break it down for all signs. And I do want to mention, my lovely friends, that I do have a series on my YouTube channel. It is free, all about Saturn's transit through each house of the horoscope. I'm only going to whiz through the key points of each house of the horoscope here in this video. If you want a more extended interpretation, if you want in-depth, go to that playlist, Saturn Through the Houses. You will learn so much about what it means when Saturn transits through a certain house of your horoscope from an in-depth in-depth perspective. But for now, let's make a beginning. Saturn in Pisces. If you are Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, then this is the reading for you, my friends. The focus, my dear darling Pisces colleagues, and get that right, is going to be on us for the next 2.5 to 3 years until May the 24th. This is where we have duties and responsibilities to fulfill now, where we need to become masters of compassion, where we need to put in hard work to achieve our highest ideals, where we need to put new boundaries in place for our life, and where there might be some rules that are repressing our ability to flow with life. Heads up, let's get started. Okay, Pisces. In the first house, the house of the body, the house of self, the house of initiation, the house of you, there might be some difficulties experienced now in achieving things in the world. Now, this will be, so there might not be manifestation of stuff in the world, like achievement in career, achievement in relationships. There may not be all the new beginnings that we desire, or the successes that we desire, unless Saturn is well placed from your natal moon. If Saturn's in the 3rd house from the moon, the 6th house from the moon, or the 11th house from the moon, then you may receive blessings that are going to support you going forward in the years to come. But that's a whole other astrological topic, which I've discussed with Joanna on my astrology discussions playlist on this YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. But generally speaking, for Pisces, sun, moon, or rising signs, unless you've got Saturn placed well from the moon, this is a transit that's going to be more about introspection and self-development. So it's really not a time for launching new things and new projects and putting yourself out there in a new way, starting a new business or an entrepreneurial endeavor or something like that might prove to be difficult. Now, there's no restriction or blockage if you are adding to something that you've already established. That's no biggie. But if it's something like, just say I just started my astrology career and I launched my astrology website the day after Saturn moves into Pisces, well, it might be a very, very long time before I see manifestation of results for effort. So be prepared for that. Over the next 3 years, launching anything new might come with a need for patience and a long waiting period that obviously you'd rather not have. So consciousness about that can help you deal with this energy and try and be more patient if you do need to launch something during Saturn's transit of the first house. There is a need for patience when Saturn is transiting the first house. Like I've just described, what you establish while Saturn is in the first house might not bear fruit until Saturn leaves in 2025. So be prepared for that in all your planning. You might be very compelled now with Saturn in the first house to somehow honor your calling, your purpose, your mission, no matter the cost. So if you feel compelled to launch your astrology website now, you can't run away from that. Saturn is the compulsion. But the cost might be a need to be patient, a need to wait, a need to build things slowly. Okay? We actually, with Saturn in the first house, we actually need to take responsibility for our destiny. Be willing to work hard for our destiny and our mission here in life. So Saturn here is saying, let's be responsible, let's be mature, let's be patient, and let's walk one step after another to achieving what we want to achieve. It is a good time to start new exercise programs, anything to do with the body, diets, that kind of thing. Anything that has a focus on taking care of your health, your body, and also your beauty, your image, your sense of self. Any changes that you make to your diet, your exercise routine, your physical expression, any changes that you make will be very lasting, long-lasting. So, let's say, I don't know, you go and get boob implants or something like that during this transit of Saturn. Well, you'll have them for a long time. I'm not saying whether they're going to look good or not, but they'll be with you for a long time. If you start, a regular detox diet, as I've suggested in the intro to this video, you probably will enjoy regular detoxes over an extended period of time going into your future. Saturn in the first house is also bringing you a need to grow in maturity, to grow in responsibility, to grow in leadership. So you might get more opportunities to do so. Opportunities for leadership can be quite a blessing, can they not? But opportunities to grow in maturity usually come through some heaviness, some frustrations, don't they? And, having to be patient results in having to have reasons to be patient. So, heads up about that. There could be some challenges that way. Again, for our Pisces rising sun or moon people, I would suggest avoiding overwork and stress. Get lots of rest and relaxation. This is Saturn in the house of the body. It could be hard on your bones. It could be hard on your teeth. And of course, I, for one, for the last 13 years have had an issue with grinding my teeth at night due to overstress, and I need to be careful. I'm going to need to be very careful of my teeth, of strengthening my teeth, of taking calcium and that kind of thing, and making sure that they're healthy, because stress can affect our teeth. So Saturn in the first house of the body, bones, teeth, and the structures of our bodily system. So go easy on your body. Go easy on yourself. Don't overdo it when you exercise. Have a steady, regulated, and monitored approach. Saturn in the first house is notorious for helping us lose weight if that's something that we want to do. Jupiter, which we all experienced last year, Pisces rising, sun and moon people, Jupiter can make us put on weight. Yep, I put on weight. I didn't like it. And then I promptly went about losing it as Jupiter went into Aries. Well, Saturn in the house of the body can actually, without much effort at all, help us lose weight. You know, Saturn can be a blessing in that regard if that's something that we're wanting. Now also, Saturn is old age and Saturn is aging. So some of us with Saturn moving through the first house might find that we start to notice more signs of aging, more grey hairs, more wrinkles, more crow's feet, all that kind of saggy boobs and all that stuff that we just detest. So what does this then mean? Does this mean we're going to start looking old and haggard when Saturn moves through our first house? Not necessarily. Because you know what Saturn is? He's hard work. And when Saturn moves through the first house, we become willing to work hard to avoid the signs of aging. We become dedicated, committed, Saturn energy, to avoiding the signs of aging. So we will notice them. Yes, we'll notice those signs of aging, but we will actually be more compelled to take action and to do the hard yards to keep those aging processes at bay. So don't despair, my friends. It's not all doom and gloom in that regard. All right, thank you, Pisces, rising, sun, and moon. Don't forget, you can actually get more information from my Saturn Through the Houses playlist. Aries rising, sun, and moon people. Well, lucky Aries have got Jupiter in their first house at the moment, so that's a good sort of protection mechanism from some of the heavier energies of Saturn. But let's talk about Saturn moving into, for the next 2 to 3 years, till 2025, in your 12th house. The 12th house is very like the Piscean influence, which is dissolving. So Saturn in Pisces can dissolve the Saturn influence in your life. And because there's a feeling of the dissolving of Saturn rules, structures, boundaries, maturity, that kind of thing, you might find that any psychological boundaries that you've put on yourself throughout your life are released. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you know, you might have certain limitations in your mind that keep you from achieving your highest potential. Well, they're going to go now. Those psychological boundaries, those inner thoughts and feelings that might be karmic, that might be coming from a past life, that keep you held back, that self-sabotage you, can start to dissolve now. And you're released from those blockages. You're released from those restrictions. What a blessing, Aries. Saturn in the 12th house makes you aware of any attachments that you have that are blocking the flow of life. If you're clinging to living in a certain area when you know you would do better by moving to another town or, another country or something like that, Saturn in the 12th house can see those blockages dissolve and go, and suddenly you can flow with life more, with what's going to help you do better in life. So you become aware now and conscious of any attachments that you have to places, people, things, or circumstances that are actually blocking the flow of life for you. Over the next 3 years, you are going to move more and more into a state of inner freedom through detachment. Now, Aries, I've just gone through Saturn transiting my 12th house, and I underline this. Inner freedom through detachment is what I've learnt during the last 2.5 years of this transit. So letting go of, for example, I thought, I needed to have a certain house or a certain lifestyle to be a happy person. And I've come to the point of recognition that, the more I cling to that, the more unhappy I am. The more free I can be about, where I go, where I live, how I live, then the more that life can just flow through me. So I feel freer and lighter inside because I'm no longer clinging to what I think I need. Now I just let life give me what I need, and it's so much more abundant. It's so much more beautiful. It's so much more of a blessing. Inner freedom through detachment. Key phrase for Saturn through the 12th house. A lot of you Aries people will now be facing the truth about your life. Maybe you've been in denial about certain things, certain situations, certain people, certain circumstances. And with Saturn moving into the 12th house, now you face the reality. Now you face the truth. You are confronting your demons. Okay, now I'm on my own. What does this mean for me? Okay, now I no longer work for that company. What's that going to mean for my future and my career? Okay, now I've lost that friendship circle. Where am I going to go to get my connection, my support, my social network? We confront our difficulties. We face the truth and the reality of our situation. We can also receive the spiritual consequences of our life journeys so far. This is what karma is. It's the consequences of our actions, you know. So if you've been, spiritually on point, being compassionate, being kind, being gracious, honoring others, not putting yourself last, but making sure that you're considerate, empathetic, all that sort of thing, then you can receive beautiful karma. Saturn is the planet of karma in the 12th house of karma. You can receive benefit. Let me just say, and I cannot explain to you because of certain circumstances what how this has unfolded for me in the last 2.5 years. But let me just say, you'll find out soon enough when the time is right for me to share. But Saturn in my 12th house has certainly brought me some beautiful spiritual karma from maybe past lives. I'm not sure about that, possibly, but also from certain standards and ethics and morals that I have adhered to throughout the earlier part of my life. So spiritual consequences of life journey so far come to us when Saturn moves through 12th house, in this case Pisces 12th house. So I've given you a beautiful illustration, not that I've explained in great detail what my illustration is. However, if you have been underhanded, if you have acted criminally, if you have been mean, if you've been a bully, if you have been narcissistic and selfish, etc., all those, psychopathic behaviors, then you'll receive the spiritual karma of that life journey as well. So really, Saturn in the 12th house is beholding us to do some deep spiritual work, to refine the self as much as we can so that our karma is clear, our karma is clean. So make sure you tie up those loose ends, dot those I's, cross those T's. If you've stolen a reef of paper from work, replace it. Buy a ream of paper and give it back to work. Clean up your karma so that the results of this transit are a blessing and not a curse. This is a transit of endings, resolutions, and conclusions, my friends. New beginnings are very hard to manifest. Take it from me. They don't come easily. There will be a wait for new beginnings to unfold while Saturn transits through the 12th house. This is endings is the focus. Resolutions, like I said, dotting those I's, crossing those T's, tying up loose ends. That's where it's at. So focus on that. Make your karma clean. And don't be expecting that, new starts are at hand. They're in the making. You will probably have a feeling also, Aries, and this you probably won't like this very much being Aries people, but that there is a new beginning coming for you, but that it's like it's Christmas Eve. Santa's coming tonight. You're going to get presents in the morning, but oh my God, Christmas Eve is such a long wait. Oh, it sucks. And that's the time of, life that you're at. There is a new beginning on the horizon, sort of about 2 to 3 years away. But now it's a time for getting your karmic clear out so that you're ready for that new start to unfold in a most beautiful way when it comes about. So thank you, Aries. Now, Taurus rising, Taurus sun, Taurus moon. Don't forget, my friends, to check out my Saturn Through the Houses playlist for a more in-depth approach to what this transit is going to mean. But Saturn in your 11th house, what will this bring right up until the 24th of May, 2025? Well, this is a house of our dreams and goals and our ambitions. And so during Saturn's transit here, you'll be exploring what brings you a feeling of fulfillment, what brings you a feeling of satisfaction, like, yes, I've achieved in the world, and yes, I've accomplished what I wanted. What are your dreams and goals now? Saturn here is causing you to refine that, to research that, to restructure what your dreams and goals are. You're actually reconsidering, while Saturn is moving through here, what your goals for life and your desires for life are. I remember when I went through this transit, I really got stuck into my astrology work because that became my primary focus. My career as an astrologer, my presence on the internet, the 11th house is internet, became more predominant during this time. Yes, it certainly became much more of a focus during this time, and it became much more part of my aspirations to share astrology with the world through social media, like on YouTube here, and so on, and to work towards being a teacher with my Royal Stars Academy. All those sorts of life goals and desires came into focus, became clearer for me when Saturn moved through my 11th house. So what this transit is asking of you, my beautiful Taurus friends, is what do you want to achieve by your existence on the planet? You know, it's that big. It's that visionary. What mark do I want to leave on the planet because I've been here? You know? What do you want to achieve by existing in this bodily incarnation? Ask yourself those big picture, big visionary questions, and then you'll get some idea of where you need to head and what work you need to do. Saturn is hard work. What work you need to do, what structures you need to put in place to achieve it. This is actually quite a good transit. I mean, Saturn has a natural kind of affiliation with the 11th house due to its dual rulership of Aquarius, which is associated with the 11th house. So Saturn does quite well here. So you might find that for many of you Taurus people, there are opportunities that come your way. You're working now more doing hard work with opportunities rather than doing hard work with obligations. You know, so it's more about what opportunities are available to me, what options are available to me that could bless me, rather than, oh, I have to do this and oh, I'm required to do that. So in that sense, quite a blessing. Now, Saturn in the 11th house, obviously the 11th house has to do with friends, groups, organizations, clubs, that kind of thing. One thing that Saturn does while it is here is make you restructure friendships and group associations. Let me just say, it is highly likely you will lose friends now. Okay? I did when I had this transit in the most surprising way. In fact, a lot of the time you will lose connection with your friendship circles and, you know, the wider friendship groups and networks and communities. Saturn restricts those things, but it's in order that you can work on your dreams and your goals and your ambitions more. When I was having this transit, I practically stopped socializing, which as a, you know, natural born Pisces wasn't too, you know, much of a big deal for me. But I stopped socializing because at the time I was working in a mainstream job all day. I would come home and I would work till 1 and 2 in the morning on astrology all night, doing readings, setting up my website, well, improving on my website, restructuring Saturn, my website, working on my YouTube channel and restructuring and revamping that. And so time for friendships, time for, you know, coffees at cafes, time for hanging out in a social circle didn't exist. But there was a purpose and a meaning behind that. And I found that I did lose friends. But you know what? They were friends who were not of a true quality for me. And so they left. And so that was the end of it. The friends who remained after that transit was over, I know they are my true friends. They are my deep soulmates, you know. Wonderful, wonderful transit in that regard to really refine for you who's with you and who's not. So friends and groups, they tend to leave during this transit when they're no longer of value to your life, when they're no longer contributing something of worth to your existence on the planet. So if this happens and friends leave, yes, it might hurt, yes, it might be sad, but recognize that there is method in this madness and there's purpose to why this is happening. Now, finally, when Saturn is moving through Pisces, we become more get my words out, more idealistic and more visionary about where we're going, where we're heading. We have a dream, maybe a utopian ideal that we want to see unfold for our life. And so we tend to think more in idealistic utopian ways. Thank you, Taurus. Gemini rising, Gemini sun, Gemini moon people. The energy of Saturn moving into Pisces for a big 3-year transit is in your 10th house. The angular house, the mutable signs are all being, they're all on the angles from this Saturn transit. So it's mutable signs that are going to be under the influence of Saturn over the next, very strongly under the influence, I should say, of Saturn over the next couple of years until May 24th, 2025. So Saturn is naturally at home in the 10th house. Lucky Gemini, thumbs up. It's an excellent time, therefore, for rewards, promotions, especially if you've previously worked hard. If you've done the best you can at your job, if you've, followed the rules, done everything that you meant, you've done it the right way round, made sure that you've been ethical and moral in how you've conducted yourself at work, worked the long hours, done your duty, been mature and responsible, then get ready because the reward is coming. Saturn is karma in the 10th house of career and worldly achievements. But the opposite is true if you haven't. There can be public disgrace. There could be a downfall, a loss of reputation, criticism you might receive, reprimands you might receive from bosses and people in authority in some way if you have conducted yourself in an underhanded manner. If you have stomped all over other people in order to get to the top of the tree, if you have manipulated, if you have done, dirty deeds behind closed doors kind of thing to get yourself to a higher position, you know what? Lord of Karma in your 10th house, you may very well come unstuck now. But generally speaking, for most of the people watching this video, I know that you'll be, thumbs up, karma is clean, karma is good. Then leadership positions can come your way and career opportunities can unfold for you now, my Gemini friends. Be careful because most of you Gemini people will be very sensitive to the feedback that you're getting from the world. Ordinarily someone leaves a shitty comment on your YouTube channel and you're just like, meh, whatever. When Saturn moves into your 10th house, someone leaves, one of those nasty comments that we get on our YouTube channel and all of a sudden, it goes straight to the core of your being and you're just like devastated and it takes you days to shake off that negative hater energy. Okay, sensitivity is increased. So maybe have some strategies. Maybe, I don't know, some of you Gemini people might like to hire a social media manager. I don't have one. I do everything myself. But you may like to consider hiring some sort of social media manager to screen your comments on your social media accounts to preserve you from any of this sort of, hurtful kind of behavior that can really, usurp our energy and our sense of joyfulness. Our social standing becomes very important while Saturn is transiting the 10th house. So we become very concerned about what other people think of us. It becomes a high priority that we have a good reputation and we appear to be upstanding in the world. There can be some restructuring that occurs to your career, and I will just say, I'll talk about my experience of this transit and over a few years back now. But this was a time when I began to I'll tell you my story. I moved, and because Saturn is opposing the 4th house of where we live, it can sometimes bring about a move, a relocation, and I relocated about 3 hours away from where I'd been living for 7 years with my children to a new town, to a new city, in order to have a brighter career prospect. And so as this transit, I had a greater financial remuneration, greater title. I had a company car. It was right up there with a sense of mastery and status in the world and all that kind of thing. Fantastic. But as this transit wore on over the 2 to 3 year period, I began to grow very disillusioned with that type of career. It was a town planning role. And so what I desired in terms of worldly recognition and career changed completely by the end of the transit. So you might get plenty of opportunities for, maybe you'll move for career, maybe you'll have career growth or promotion, all that sort of thing. But at the same time, you might be restructuring what you want out of career. And by the time that transit had ended, I was in a different job that wasn't so high pressured. And I was working, not full-time in astrology, but heading that way to becoming a full-time astrologer rather than, running 2 careers at once kind of thing. So that's what happened to me. And so similar for you, restructuring of career, new desires in terms of what you want for worldly recognition. I would suggest also make sure you don't neglect your loved ones and your family now. Saturn is opposite the house of family here. And we can become so focused on our career and our worldly achievements that we forget our family needs us. We need to be there to watch our son's sports games or take our daughter to ballet or all those things that stick in our children's hearts and memories and that create that good family fabric. Don't neglect those things for the sake of career. Try and find a balance. Even though you'll be focused very much on career success, try your best to create a family balance. Be very clear, you will be very clear under this transit about what you want to achieve in the world, and you can become very organized and realistic about how you're going to go about getting there. So it's a great time to set some plans, do some sort of strategizing about what you want, how you're going to go about getting there, and what it's going to look like for you. Thank you, Gemini. Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon people. Okay, well, the energy that you are under until the 24th of May 2025 is Saturn in your 9th house, Pisces. So this starts on the 7th, roughly, of March until 24th of May 2025. So what does it mean to have Saturn in the 9th house? It's a time of defining the meaning of life, the purpose of existence. 9th house is very philosophical. It wants to understand what's it all about, and so there is this very strong focus on redefining your purpose, your mission. So you might have thought that you were heading in this direction. Saturn moves in here and all of a sudden, boof, you're heading over that way. Different direction, different purpose, different meaning. You can become more discriminating now about who you choose to have in your life as a source of inspiration, as a teacher for you. This is the house of our gurus, our teachers, our mentors. It's the house of the university professors that you look up to and aspire to or whatever. So Saturn here, Saturn's an energy of discrimination, means that we get more discriminating and even critical of who we allow into our sphere to inspire us. So you might discover new mentors, new teachers, new gurus. Usually you'll discover these new people as a response to disappointment with your old religious gurus, teachers, and professors and so on. They will somehow let you down. There might be some disillusionment with them. And therefore you go looking for others that are more on your trajectory, on your plane, while Saturn moves through the 9th house. You might also experience a level of disappointment and disillusionment with your own religious views and spiritual convictions. Thinking back to when I went through this transit, I walked away from Christianity. This was very disappointing to my parents, I must add, as well. But it's very much the nature of what I've got going on in my chart to have done so. So not everybody will go through this. Not everyone will sort of throw off the yoke of their spiritual upbringing or whatever. You have to have certain configurations in your chart to indicate that that's going to happen for you at some point in life. But many people with Saturn here, it'll be the time when that kind of process is triggered for you. So there can be a changing of spiritual convictions, a changing of beliefs, because you see through maybe the lies of what you've always believed, or you see the truth about what you've always believed. Your faith is tested. The old song by REM, Losing My Religion? Saturn transiting the 9th house can bring that about for many Cancer people. So a change in faith, a disillusionment with the existing status quo. Now, also, Saturn in the ninth house can bring some difficulties and delays with long distance travel, or can bring some problems and blockages and difficulties whenever you visit other countries. There can be just some hiccups, that can happen, unfortunately. So if you are planning on traveling, make sure you get your plans and your passport and your paperwork in order early. Don't leave things to the last minute, because with Saturn here, there's going to be delays. There's going to be blockages. There's going to be like hold-ups. It's going to suck. So be extra, extra, extra organized if you are going to travel anywhere during the next 2 to 3 years. You will probably have an aspiration to expand your knowledge, to expand your understanding while Saturn transits here. You want to become a master of some certain understanding, some certain wisdom. So many people might return to a form of schooling, and if they do, they will do so seriously, usually in order to achieve some sort of structured level of mastery. So it's not just, I think I might trot along and do this tarot course. No, it's I'm going to get a master's degree. I'm going to go and get my PhD. It's structured, high level, Saturnian, hierarchical knowledge and wisdom. So that's what we're talking about with this transit. It's not your usual higher level knowledge of esoteric things or the law or whatever. It's much more about getting a hierarchical recognition in education. So many people will go back to school in this regard. And finally, in this realm, this is the house of people who we look to for inspiration. It's also the house of where we can become a source of inspiration to others. And so while Saturn transits here, we might have a strong desire and compulsion to be in spiritual leadership, to be a source of inspiration for others. And this might especially be achievable for some Cancer people in other cultures. There's also the house of faraway places and other cultural circumstances. So you might become a spiritual leader, a knowledge giver, an inspiration to others in another country, different to your own. And that's what we're seeing for Cancer over the next 2 to 3 years with Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces for Leo rising, Sun or Moon people. This is putting the energy of Saturn transiting through your 8th house for the next 2.5 to 3 years, until from the 7th of March until May 24th, 2025. What's this going to bring we Leo people? Well, there's going to be a serious reviewing of how you actually go about achieving your goals. Why is this the house where that is the focus? Because this is the house of our personal power. Do we manipulate to get into a position of power, or do we assert ourselves in healthy ways? Where is your willpower? Where is your personal power coming from in life? Saturn, the planet of karma, moving through this house, will reveal and expose any underhanded tactics that you've been using to get into positions of power. If you've been manipulating, if you've been cheating and lying, if you've been going behind people's backs and doing underhanded deals, look out. Karma is coming for you with this transit. If you have been keeping everything above board, if you have been achieving levels of power by being honorable and integrous, Saturn will reward you. Saturn will give you a sense of achievement and mastery. Now, if you are involved in any occult practices like astrology, tarot, past life regression, energy work, energy healing, that kind of thing, if you're involved in any of these shamanic practices seen through the 8th house, then you can achieve a level of mastery, you can achieve a level of recognition for your work while Saturn transits here. Yay, very, very nice. There also might be an increase in your personal interest in these topics. Maybe you've never explored astrology before, and if you haven't, you're so welcome here at this channel. Maybe you've never explored astrology. Maybe you've never explored Reiki. Maybe you've never explored regression work or something. And here, Saturn can trigger an interest, an intrigue in getting to the bottom of what are those things all about? What's the real deal? In fact, when I had Saturn transiting my 8th house, many moons ago now, that is when I really started doing astrology for other people, not paid. I was actually just dabbling in giving astrological readings and so on. And over that course of the transit, my astrological reading giving ability has increased, and I'm doing it professionally over the course of this particular transit for me. But I started doing, I gathered the knowledge over many years, but I started actually offering it to other people at the time Saturn was moving through my 8th house. So an intrigue and a growth in interest in astrology in some way in your life or other occult topics. Now, word of warning, this is another house where we might feel very sensitive to criticism. So if you're a Leo person and, you have a bit of pride and a bit of ego, like most Leo people do, then, if somebody, gives you the bird or gives you a hard word or yells at you on the highway or something like that while you're driving down the road, somebody is critical of you in some way, it will like really, the arrow will hit its target. You will be like, oh, that's awful. I feel so bad. And, it might be really hard to shake that negative energy off you. Might be good to have some strategies, if you're feeling low, I'm going to call this person, have a chat and just let it off my chest. Or I'm going to go and, one thing I like to do is go have coffee down the street and just find my happy place and my calm place again. Or maybe go have an ice cream with my kids in the park or something like that. But have a strategy for how you're going to deal with things when you're feeling a little bit meh due to somebody's criticism of you. Saturn is criticism. This is a sensitive house, okay? Saturn in the 8th house also highlights how willing you are to deal with trust and control issues. Are you willing to face any issues you have regarding trusting? Are you willing to deal with maybe an over-controlling attitude or a clinging attitude to being in a position of power? This transit's going to highlight, all those issues for you. Any experiences that you encounter in the next 3 years might now cause inner confrontation regarding issues of trust, issues of control. How willing are you to let somebody else into your life? And this is hard for Leo. Leo is so autonomous. It wants to do it its way. My way or the highway. Sorry, I haven't got time for your opinion and your way of doing things because I'm doing it my way. And here, Saturn in the 8th house says, are you over-controlling? Are you not willing to trust other people? Maybe you need to deal with that. So there might be experiences that happen that cause you to have to deal with it. Individuality is something that a Leo person prides themselves on, them being unique, standing out from the crowd. Well, your individuality might feel pressured or restricted under this transit to the 8th house, okay? So be forewarned, forearmed about that. You might feel on a frequent basis frustrated by people not recognizing your uniqueness, not recognizing your individuality. The objective in that, though, is that Saturn wants to transform your personality, to purify your personality, to purify your desires. He wants you to become more psychologically balanced. I, as a Leo Sun person, I'm really excited by this. Who doesn't want to be more psychologically balanced and harmonious? And that's what we will achieve by the end of this transit. But we're going to feel like, it's pressurized in the pressure cooker regarding, our individuality and how people recognize us and honor us and that kind of thing, or not. And that's going to help us sort of perhaps tone our overblown egos down a little bit at the end of this transit. So bring it on. Let's refine ourselves. Let's purify ourselves. Let's transform ourselves, Leo. Saturn in the 8th house of transformation and change. Now, this is a period of releasing outworn motives and outworn behavior patterns. It's time for growing up. So changing for the purposes of becoming more mature, becoming more wise, becoming a wisdom keeper, and a wisdom keeper in terms of shamanic understanding. So bring that on. That sounds fantastic to me. Now, Saturn's in the house of sexuality, my friends. So what is this going to bring us? Well, it's time to learn sexual lessons for the next 2 to 3 years. what this is, means different things depending on where you're at in life. So let's explore this a little bit. It means learning to work with and master your sexual self. Now, maybe you've been in a sexual relationship and, it's become ho-hum and boring. Something might happen that says, okay, I need to own my sexuality more, and I need to understand what fires me up sexually more than I ever have before. So something might happen in circumstantially that causes you to do that, or it might just be an inner prompting that you have. Learning to work with, Saturn is what is work, to understand your sexual self and the importance of your sexuality in the journey of your life. You become more serious about sex. Not that, for some people, and I'll talk about this in a second, it does restrict and block your sex life for some people. But the higher manifestation of this is to become a master of sexual energy. And you have to be somewhat serious about that. You have to understand that, sexuality, yeah, it's fun, but there's a serious side to it as well. It can be powerful. It's energy work. It's a source of manifestation. And if you can seriously and conscientiously work to control your sexual energy and use it for your empowerment, oh my God, look out world, here you come. And Saturn in the 8th house says it's time to learn to do that. How wonderful. But you've got to be serious about it. You've got to be like, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on controlling my sexual energy and using it to manifest. Okay? That is the positive expression of Saturn moving through the 8th house. But there's also sexual karma here. So if you have mistreated others in the sexual arena, if you've used and abused them, if you have, have some sexual energy hanging around from people, from past sexual partners and stuff, it's time to clear that stuff. Get clearing that, like go see a specialist if you want to, or do some energy work on yourself to release past sexual attachments that are karmic and that might be causing all sorts of, trouble in your life. And also start to seek forgiveness for where you've sexually hurt or harmed another person. Start to purify your sexual karma through whatever mechanisms you like to use. Maybe see a sex counselor to heal any sexual problems that you've got during this time. Do the work, Saturn's work, on your sexual health and well-being and your mental attitude towards sexuality. Focus on your sexual passions now. Look into, deep in your heart, okay, what turns me on? What turns me off? There's a deliberate use of sexuality that you can use for your growth and self-mastery. You're discovering deeper realms of your sexual self. Some people under this transit might even choose sexual celibacy now, because maybe they had a rough childhood and they were abused sexually or something. And Saturn, through this period of time, excuse me, can say, you know what, we need a break. We need to clear our sexual karma. We need to heal ourselves sexually. So people might choose celibacy for that reason. People might feel very lonely. And so, they're like, I just want time to myself, because I've been in relationships where I just felt lonely and unconnected sexually. So I'm just going to take some time out for me. So I'm going to choose sexual celibacy now. People who are in relationships where the sexual condition is very difficult and not very pleasant, not very nice, they might find when Saturn moves into the house of sex that things get worse. So heads up on that one, Leo. Things could get more difficult for you sexually if you've been in a relationship where it's been nasty. But the reason that's happening is so that you deal with it. Saturn wants you to face up to your responsibilities. If you've been sort of in denial that your sex life sucks and you're in a marriage or a partnership, well, Saturn's going to make it really suck so that you actually do something about it. Get on that thing and sort it out. Saturn doesn't want to leave any stone unturned in that way. So be aware that there's going to be a big focus on purifying and processing through sexual issues for all of us who are Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising. So there becomes, in the house of death, because this is also the house of death, a consciousness of your mortality. Why? Why does this happen? Well, it's the house of death, and any deaths that occur in your life over the next 2 to 3 years, you'll feel profoundly. You know, they might be a pet or a person or whatever who passes away. They mightn't mean any more to you than somebody else who's died in your life, but you're going to feel it more than ever. It's going to really hit home for some reason or another more profoundly than ever. So be forewarned, forearmed, Leo, that is going to trigger your consciousness around the brevity of life, and how fragile and frail we are as human beings, you know. Might put, in that sense, more value on your existence because you realize how frail life actually is. Finally, this is a big house, lots to talk about here for Leo people. There can be a blockage of money from partners. Saturn can block the resources of others. A blockage of inheritances, a blockage of taxes. Yay, maybe that's a good thing. I do feel mostly though that people will need to sort their taxes out and get 100% online with their taxes and on the ball with their taxes, or else, you know, the karmic repercussions come back to haunt. So make sure that you're playing by the rules when it comes to taxes while Saturn's in your 8th house. But there can also be a blockage of, you know, some sort of will, that you thought you were going to have or something. You need to get your financial affairs in order as soon as possible, Leo. Make sure that everything is above board, following the rules, and that you have the ability to survive of your own accord through your own capabilities, self-sufficiently. Because if you're leaning on a partner, Leo, if you're expecting that someone's going to contribute to your life and make it all cushy and wonderful for you, think again. Saturn here says, get it in order, get it in line, and be more self-sufficient. Saturn in the 8th house, Pisces. Also, my beautiful Leo friends, can I just encourage you, avoid any loans for the next 2 to 3 years. I'm a Leo sun. This sucks, I know, because I would love a new car, but can't do it. Avoid loans. Update wills. Don't take financial risks now. Don't borrow any money where possible. Live according to your means. Live within the boundaries, Saturn, of your financial situation. And that might mean living more humbly for some people. Or frugally, but that's just the way it is. Saturn transiting through the 8th house is making you get your financial affairs in order so that you don't need to lean on anyone else, other people's resources. 8th house. Whew, that was a big one, Leo. You probably got the longest reading in this particular video, so I hope that was helpful. Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon people. The energy of Saturn and his 2 to 3 year transit through the sign of Pisces is falling in your 7th house, the house of other people, the house of partnership and collaborations. He's going to be here until May 24th, 2025. So, starting from the 7th of March, we need to start taking responsibility for our love life, Virgo friends. You know, relationships become the primary focus during this 2 to 3 year transit. So any difficulties in relationships will be sort of laid bare, out in the open, on the surface, so that you can address them and restructure anything that's not working right. Saturn wants to rework those things to make it right. So what can happen? Well, if you're in an easygoing type of relationship, that could be a business partnership and where it's pretty lax and pretty laid back, or it could be a marriage where it's pretty relaxed. Things might suddenly get more serious. Things might suddenly get more committed. Now, if you're in a pretty easygoing dating kind of situation, suddenly someone might pop the question and you're like, oh, hang on, I hadn't even thought about getting married or committing to somebody. Oh my goodness, you know, Saturn wants to make things concrete. Saturn wants to make things committed, and Saturn wants to make things for the long haul. So that can occur. If it does and you're totally ready for that, good luck to you. Fantastic. Congratulations. If you're in that sort of situation and you're like, oh, hang on, I don't want to settle down, this is not for me, then Saturn's going to make you deal with that issue, you know. Maybe you walk away from a relationship because you're just not ready. So that can happen too. Relationships that suck, that are not going well, will tend to end because Saturn doesn't want to sort of focus on anything that's not long term. If it's just mucking around or dilly-dallying or, yeah, I'm just here for a good time, not a long time, Saturn says, well, no, that's not part of the agenda here. My agenda in the 7th house, let's make it committed. So sucky relationships can, see the door. There is karma. Saturn is the planet of karma. Karmic lessons with love now. So relationships feel, new relationships that form feel predestined. And often any new relationships that form while Saturn transits the 7th house are actually people or energies that you have known and encountered in previous lifetimes. You may not be aware of that, but that's the principle here. So yes, any relationships are here to revisit karma, to write some karma with a partner, and perhaps sort out some old karmic ties, karmic loops that need to conclude in this lifetime. So, that can be a good thing. Some people, when Saturn transits the 7th house, they tend to choose isolation and loneliness. They feel that it becomes burdensome to go out and meet new people. I've got a friend, she's Virgo rising, she's already in this state of mind. She's like, I don't want to have to go online to meet anybody because online dating sucks, and I just want to meet someone, naturally, organically. Let me just say, there's going to be limited opportunities, my Virgo friends, for you to do that, for you to meet people. It's just, you might have, as in the case of my friend, she's just been sort of, beating men off her whole life long because they just think she's the best thing since sliced bread. This could be the total antithesis of anything she's ever experienced before, where there is nobody. It's Tumbleweed City. And so there is this limited opportunities for relationship when Saturn's in the 7th house. And in the case of my friend again, she, in a sense, is choosing isolation and loneliness because she feels it's too hard to go online and meet anyone, or she doesn't want to have to go out to places where people go to meet other single people. It's too hard. I don't want to have to. Why should I? Because she's not used to it, quite frankly, because all her life long, God bless her, she's had, men lined up, queuing up to date her. So it's a different experience, but it's a learning mechanism. It's a learning procedure. Now, if you are in some kind of an affair, no judgment here on my behalf, but if you're in an affair, be aware that you might get found out. So, maybe put your affairs in order regarding who you're dating and who you're in a romantic liaison with, so that the truth comes out, you're not going to be caught, unprepared. Okay? Single people who are looking for love while Saturn transits the 7th house might encounter a relationship that will become very serious, very long term. So yes, I described my friend being in a very limited kind of opportunity for love, but there are also occasions where you might encounter someone and it will be straight away, like, serious, let's get married, let's buy a house together, long-term commitment, or mature relationships. One thing, my friend, I don't think she'll be watching this video, but she's my age and she always attracts men who are like 10 to 15 years younger than her. That can occur with Saturn here in the 7th house. So she may meet somebody with a big age difference. But also she might meet somebody who's a great deal older than her, very mature, quite even elderly, that can happen. So the big age differences, or a mature lover, a mature relationship. Or maybe you've had relationships your whole life long that are very, playful, childlike, just fun-loving kind of things. Well, here comes this transit and it's like, no, hang on. We've got to be grown-ups here. We've got to act responsible in our relationships. And you have, for the very first time in your life, a very adult type relationship, perhaps. That could be how that plays out too. Some love experiences might unfold that are here to highlight any unrealistic expectations that you might have and any false concepts about what relationships are all about. That's no fun. Having your illusions shattered, and Pisces, the sign of illusion and disillusionment, some of you might suddenly have a love relationship experience that's, you realize, oh, hang on, the concept that I had about, my knight in shining armor and everybody's here to rescue me and somebody's going to stop me from being a victim of loneliness. Suddenly you have a relationship that shows you the complete opposite. No, I have to be responsible for myself. No, I have to, mature. So unrealistic expectations, false concepts can come crashing down about what relationships are all about who you are in relationships, about other people, about men, about women, and their role in relationships. Big changes in your expectations. Some people might get more realistic about their relationships, and they might lower any unrealistic standards that they might have. And that's a better manifestation rather than having the rug pulled out from under you with your expectations. So if you can become more grounded, more realistic, more level-headed about what a relationship is all about the people out there to choose from, in life, then you're going to cope better with this particular transit. Now, finally, when over this next 2 to 3 year period, when Saturn crosses your descendant, wherever that might be, Saturn will then move to being above the horizon. Currently, as Saturn is at 0 degrees of Pisces, unless you've got your descendant degree at 0 degrees of Pisces, Saturn is still below the horizon and doing certain meaningful things below the horizon. But once he moves across the descendant, then Saturn moves into the public sphere, this above the horizon sphere of the chart. And that means that you begin at that point a 14-year roughly period where you are going to desire more recognition and more of a public focus to your life. So that is heralding some significant change that is going to be in place for a long time for our Virgo friends. Thank you, Virgo. Now, moving on to Libra, Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon people. The energy of Saturn's transit through the houses, let me get this right, is going to be affecting your 6th house. And this is happening from the 7th of March to the 24th of May 2025. So 7th of March 2023 to the 24th of May 2025. Saturn in the 6th house. Well, this is going to put a big emphasis for Libran people on daily work, daily routines. And of course, this is the house of any employees that we have, any workmates that we have, any colleagues. And this can bring a lot of difficulties with our employees, a lot of difficulties and blockages and restrictions with workmates. If we're in a conflict situation with an enemy of some description in our life, this can bring more complications, more heaviness. But fortunately, Saturn's a malefic planet here in a malefic house. So we're going to have the endurance that we need to persevere and sort things out and work through all the troubles and problems and difficulties. Thank God for that. With Saturn in the 6th house, there is a tendency to work harder than the people around us. So you might go to work and you're in there an hour earlier than everyone and you leave an hour later than everyone and you're like, this is not fair. Hey, it's Saturn in the 6th house. You might carry a heavier load of responsibilities and duties than the other people at your work for some reason. Okay? Deal with it how you will, but it's likely to be felt at some point over the next 2 to 3 years. Everyday work is seen through the 6th house. The work that we do to pay the bills and to keep life, ticking along. Now, everyday work with Saturn in the 6th house might feel tedious. It might feel unsatisfying. What is key here? Stoicism, acceptance. Keep putting that one foot in front of the other, okay? Because that's the only way we can cope with Saturn is enduring, and accepting, okay, Saturn's here for another 2.5 to 3 years. I've just got to keep soldiering on. But some people might go, screw this, I'm out of here, quit their job and off they go. I want to suggest, my friends watching this video, weigh up with a level-headed groundedness. Should you quit or not? Now, if you do quit your job because it's too tedious, it's too unsatisfying, consider, are you quitting for better opportunities in your life? If you are, then thumbs up to you. That's fine. Go for it. But if you're running away from duties, hard work, and responsibility, and that's why you just want out, then it could prove to be very detrimental. So do some weighing up. Why do you want to get out of your job? Why do you want to chuck it in and leave? do think twice about your motivations, because Saturn is a hard taskmaster, and there might be some karmic repercussions of the choices that you make here now. So this is a transit that's going to grow your level of patience. You've got to deal with life struggles, okay? As I just already described, you're going to have to deal with conflicts. You're going to have to deal with problems. You're going to have to deal with imbalances and restrictions and things that you don't like in the 6th house. And Saturn is saying, well, you've got to grit your teeth and be stoic. You've got to be patient and endure. With all of these difficulties, with all of these life struggles, I can see how this is going to play out for me. I'm not looking forward to it, but hey, got to be stoic, got to be accepting about Saturn's transit through the 6th house. So our patience will grow. Patience only grows when it's tested, I'm afraid, unfortunately. Now, health and diet and exercise are key focal points for our Libran friends as well. You need to take full responsibility for the effect of your habits in those areas and full responsibility for your physical well-being. So it's time to put some healthy eating plans in place, make a schedule for how you're going to fit in an everyday walk or some dancing or some weights or whatever you do. Work it out. How are you going to structure your life now to be healthy and fit and to keep illness and feeling of unwellness at bay? Once again, Saturn in a house of health and well-being, my Libran friends, means take care of your teeth, take care of your bones. Calcium is good for that. Get plenty of rest and relaxation, because you might find that you're feeling overstressed, overwhelmed, overworked, and you need regular breaks. You need regular relaxation to be able to cope with this transit of Saturn. It is also a really good time to organize and restructure your daily routine. Maybe do some spring cleaning, maybe, go over the house, get rid of all the cobwebs and clean things up, because Saturn wants to make everything just right here in the house of our daily life and our daily routine. Thank you, Libra. Alrighty, Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun and moon. The energy of Saturn's transit for the next 2.5 to 3 years in the sign of Pisces is occurring, let me get this just about right, is occurring for you in the 5th house. Now, this is happening between the 7th of March 2023 to the 24th of May 2025. And it means that it's time for you to learn what differentiates you from other people. You're going to spend the next 2.5 to 3 years learning what makes you an individual, coming to grips with how unique you are, accepting your uniqueness. And I think in this sense, it's a wonderful transit. It's not an easy house for Saturn to be in. I'll just say that straight. But this can be quite enlightening. You're learning to understand yourself more. It's a great time for gaining self-knowledge through introspection and self-reflection. So take time out to do that. If you are in any type of career that has to do with the arts, performance, creativity in any way, shape or form, then this is a time when you can really produce some of your best work. You will put a lot of hard work and effort into what you do. You will give great attention to detail. You will maybe even attain a new level of mastery regarding such things. For many of you, you might even have a rise in recognition by the public now. This is the house of celebrity. Saturn is mastery. This is also a house of creativity. So that's another way that this can manifest, which is wonderful if you're working in those careers. But also, it's not so much a time for fun. This is the house of play and fun, and Saturn puts a real stymie on that. He kind of sucks the joy of living out. So yes, you can achieve. It's not going to stop you achieving having Saturn here, but you'll feel very serious about your creative work. It's actually time to work hard on mastering your craft and having a productive creative output. Anything that you produce creatively during this transit can have a long-lasting level of success for you too. So wonderful. It is time for doing the work. Do be conscious of being a workaholic, though, when it comes to your creativity and your creative output, though. You don't want to burn yourself out. So Saturn in the 5th house, this is the house of your love life and romantic dating. It's not a house of commitment like the 7th house, but it's the dating and the romance. And so there's a karmic deservability that is tied to your love life and experiences in your love life when you've got this transit happening. There's a strong, you probably will gain a strong sense of what you deserve in love and what you don't deserve. And you won't be willing to tolerate what you don't deserve, what you're not deserving of anymore. You will be like, no way, I am going to honor myself, restructuring of what you're worth when it comes to love and dating. There can be fated, karmic, Saturn is karmic, experiences with love and dating. So the people that you encounter are likely to be people from past lives or maybe earlier in this life even, who you have a chance encounter or a love or dating experience with to sort of unravel karmic loops or connections that need to end now. So that can be quite an interesting component of this transit. But you might feel very vulnerable with regard to romance, very sensitive with regard to romance now. And the chances of being hurt by a romantic experience can increase when Saturn transits through the 5th house. It's a placement for unrequited love or, feeling lame and awkward in a romantic situation, that kind of thing. It's a transit for feeling unloved and unappreciated and unvalued. So that's hard work. You might be in a romantic situation and you feel like they don't love me, they don't appreciate me. Well, there's a karmic lesson in that, no doubt. I've got this placement natally, and it's not really very fun in that regard. But yes, a general feeling of being unappreciated, general feeling of being unloved. So be careful of that. It can burn you out too. There could be, because of that sense that you have, that energetic sense that you have, you might experience a struggle with your energy levels and your vitality levels. You might experience some limitations on how much drive you have to achieve and your level of confidence. You might feel like you have to work harder than ever to accomplish anything creatively, work harder than ever to sort of feel confident and feel worth anything. You have to really push yourself to achieve. Saturn here, though, can restructure our sense of pride, our sense of self-respect, and our sense of self-worth. And by the end of this transit, that can prove very valuable. You might have a more realistic view of your sense of worth in the world. You might have a sort of more level-headed level of self-respect as well. I would suggest this is a house of risk, that you avoid taking any big risks in life. Don't get involved in any risk-taking ventures, especially things that have to do with gambling, because Saturn just doesn't allow them to work out. Saturn puts the blockage on the house of risk and luck. So, now there's a blockage of luck when Saturn is here. So you need to work hard in life. You need to earn your stripes. You need to earn your rewards. And of course, we all want to win Tats Lotto. We all want to sort of strike it lucky or, find that gold nugget or whatever. And Saturn says, no, not with me in the 5th house. That's not going to happen. You need to have earned your blessings. You need to have earned your good rewards. So be prepared to work hard. Be prepared to earn your stripes. I would encourage you with this transit to check in on your children on a regular basis, because they might be experiencing difficulties with Saturn transiting your 5th house. Some women with Saturn transiting the 5th house might have unwanted pregnancies. Sometimes that could occur. It really depends on your natal chart and how this transit is interacting with your natal chart, but that can happen. 5th house also has connections to your heart. It's the house of the heart. So you really need to focus on keeping your heart healthy through moderate cardio exercise, healthy eating. Avoid anything that could adversely affect your heart health. And you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that, my friends. Avoid anything that could affect your heart. Love affairs, as we've said, are a 5th house thing. And here Saturn can bring love affairs with older people, more mature people, or big age differences with the people that you're dating. All right, thank you, Scorpio. Okay, Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius moon. Again, you are a mutable sign, and that means that this is going to be very strongly felt by you, because, as with all mutable signs, because Saturn is now transiting an angular house. He's transiting a mutable sign, the sign of Pisces, who is also notably co-ruled by your ruler. And this, I just point this out, currently for Sagittarius people and Pisces people, or for everybody, Jupiter is in Aries, which is a good placement for Jupiter to be. But for Saggy people, he's in the 5th house, the house of luck and blessing. So, thank God for that. Not only is he in a good dignity, but Jupiter is also in one of the blessing houses, bringing blessing, bringing abundance. And I find, this is not a lecture on Jupiter, so forgive me, but I just need to say that Jupiter is all about looking to the future. What Jupiter is establishing now is going to hold space for you in the future, blessing and luck for the future, because that's what Jupiter is building. And Saturn's tying into this, my Saggy friends. Why? Because Saturn is bringing karmic solidification. We'll talk about the 4th house emphasis in just a minute. And Jupiter is bringing luck. So you can land on your feet, at least until Jupiter leaves Aries. This may be the case, okay? After that, things can shift a little in their positive emphasis to something a bit more difficult, but good news in that regard to start with. So, Saturn in the 4th house. Well, this is where we build a foundation for future success and achievement. Saturn is to build new structures. This is the foundation, 4th house is the foundation of who we are. And so you're building a new foundation of who you are. And this new foundation that is being constructed over the next 2.5 to 3 years is what you are, it's concrete mechanisms you're putting in place to create future success and achievement for yourself. So Saturn is a slow energy. Saturn represents anything slow and concentrated. So slow and concentrated efforts are going to be needed now to build some sense of stability in the material world. This is the house of where we feel safe and secure. And Saturn here is not going to stop you feeling safe and secure, but he's going to say you're going to need to work hard to create safety and security and stability. It's going to happen slowly, not overnight, not with some sudden, lottery win or anything like that. You're going to have to slowly and steadily work towards building more material security in your life. It's not a helpful transit for gainfulness. Like I said, suddenly winning Tuts Lotto or getting a promotion that adds another $30,000 to your pocket. No, nothing like that. It's not helpful for gainfulness, not helpful for promotion or outer worldly recognition. So don't go expecting that suddenly, your name's going to be up in neon lights or anything like that. Be prepared to work hard towards Saturn leaving this sign eventually in about 2.5 to 3 years. It's a good time, however, for introspection, for inner restructuring of your emotional foundation, understanding who you are, understanding what your needs for happiness and joy and success are. It's also a time for reassessing where you're living and how beneficial that is to your life. Some people might move when Saturn is transiting here. Some people might change their place of living to move to somewhere more suited to their needs. That said, if you do move, you're going to be moving out of a sense of duty and obligation, or to create a sense of security and stability and a solid base for your future, rather than moving because it's fun or this looks like a better place to be because that's going to be more joyful. No, it's much more serious need to move that occurs when Saturn transits the 4th house. Working on personal and intimate concerns is a part of this transit as well. So it can have to do with relationships. Because it is aspecting the relationship axis by a 90-degree angle. And so there is this need to work on emotional concerns, personal and intimate concerns, relational concerns. And as you work on those and restructure those things, it's actually going to serve a beautiful purpose of safeguarding your future peace and happiness in life. So sometimes we see new relationships form because of this aspect to the relationship axis. And relationships that form in that sense will feel emotionally stable, emotionally strong, and are serving to, as I said, safeguard your future peace and stability. You might be very sensitive, though, during this transit to any domestic situations, domestic issues, any family issues. Now, if you're wanting a remedy to sort of bring a bit more peace and balance into your home life, I would bring in some rocks, maybe a rock garden or some crystals in your home. Saturn rules those things, things from the earth. Bring them into your home to create a greater sense of stability in your home and family life. Some people might find that they have more responsibilities with their parents, especially a mother figure. You might find that your mother, when Saturn transits the fourth house, has issues with her health, issues with well-being, especially if she's already elderly and frail. So do check in on your mother regularly. Be there for her, both parents actually, and see what you can do to help your mother in any way. And for many of us with Saturn transiting the fourth house, getting in touch with your early childhood memories might be very strong for you now. You know, remembering certain things and reminiscing about certain events and so forth. And when you do that, it's happening spontaneously and energetically within you to cause you to look at your upbringing, to look at who you are as a result of how you were raised. And that can be very enlightening and empowering. And that's part of the process of refinement. That's part of the process of restructuring that Saturn is trying to achieve now as he transits through the fourth house. Thank you, Sagittarius. Now, Capricorn rising, sun or moon people, well, you guys are ruled by Saturn. And so your ruling lord is moving into the third house. And so this makes it a very, for you, wherever Saturn goes, is going to be very influential for you in your life. Here in the third house for Capricorn rising, sun or moon people, between the 7th of March until the 24th of May, 7th of March 2023 to the 24th of May 2025, know that this is a time period where you're going to be doing a deep dive into knowledge that's going to be helping you to better your existence on the planet. You're going to want more understanding, more knowing, and you'll do the hard work, Saturn, to achieve that. So it's a transit where you might be thinking, this is the house of our thought processes, thinking very seriously, lots of deep thinking. And because of that, because you're going to have heavy thinking, deep thinking, serious thinking, there's less frivolity in your life. There's less buoyancy in your thought patterns. So that said, you got to watch out for anxiety, depression, too much worrying, all that sort of thing. Make sure that you have time for fun and enjoyment where you can. Make sure you have time and strategies for how you're going to deal with things if life gets too mentally heavy for you. Maybe you need to find a good psychologist that you can go see, or a counselor that you can talk things out with as you need to over this transit of Saturn through the third house. You might have a lot of duties and responsibilities with your siblings. Saturn is duties here in the house of siblings, and so siblings might need you more. You might need to lean on them, they might need to lean on you, and you might need to be a source of strength for your siblings in some way. Some of you Capricorn people might be busy with more written material in life. You might be writing more articles, more blogs, more social media posts, more letters, more emails. If you are, it's likely to be around a serious topic, something of great importance to you that you feel you must share. You're feeling compelled to, alert people to something, to make your opinion known on a serious topic. It's not sort of frivolous memes or, funny ha-ha stuff. It's much more serious communication and written word, etc. You might be reading more serious material as well. It's much more likely that you'll be reading manuals and instructional books, that kind of thing, rather than, the latest Stephen King novel or something like that. So you will have a mental approach that has you perhaps examining life in a more objective manner under this influence. You'll be more level-headed, more grounded, more down to earth with how you are thinking about life. If you work in fields of education, or if you have a small business, if you're working in advertising or marketing or sales, Saturn can give you a feeling of burdensomeness. You might feel like your career is somehow blocked or troubled, perhaps, during this transit. So, again, don't take it too much to heart. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Stoicism is key with any Saturn transit. yeah, be prepared to endure and to re-strategize. Saturn is to strategize where necessary. This house, the third house, has to do with the lungs and the nervous system, and these areas of the body can be a bit more vulnerable during Saturn's transit here. So really, it's time to start a regime of breathing techniques, breath work, exercise and relaxation techniques that help you find that Zen place, help you breathe, help you calm your nervous system and your mental anxiety as well. So that's kind of key, my Capricorn friends, for this particular transit. Alrighty, Aquarius rising. Thank you for hanging around till lucky last, Aquarius. Aquarius rising, sun or moon people sees the Saturn energy leaving their first house for the first time in 2.5 to 3 years. So yay, breathe a sigh of relief, guys. But now Saturn's moving into your second house. And this is happening between the 7th of March 2023 to the 24th of May 2025. This is a transit that asks, what are you worth? What do you deserve? Saturn's going to make you question your deservability during his transit of the second house. Life can become a bit more outwardly directed during this time, a bit more, and by that I mean more materialistic, more focused on the stuff, the things, what you've got, the sensual experiences, rather than any self-analytical kind of process. There's a big focus on financial matters, on financial responsibilities, on meeting your expenses, on making money. There's a focus on hoarding and keeping things when Saturn's in the second house. You might feel more stingy, more like I've got to going to keep my money, and not give it away to anybody else during Saturn's transit here. That's because there's a quest for financial security when Saturn transits the second house. Realistically, you're going to see the connection between your sense of value, sense of self-worth, and the wealth that you are capable of manifesting. That's going to become clear. We all know that if we think we're worthy, we can attract more beautiful things to us. If we think I don't deserve, life isn't fair to me, I'm a victim, then we find that things are held at bay. Everything, manifestation, our thoughts create our reality. It's an old Hermetic principle. So Saturn here can firstly, in the positive, it can make this clear. You can understand, and see the self-sabotaging thought patterns that have kept you from manifesting what you want. Saturn, unfortunately, though, can also bring a bit more self-sabotaging thought processes into your life. Now, usually when he does that and you start to become more self-critical and, lower sense of self-worth because Saturn is putting his critical blocking energy on your sense of self-value, then you start to see your finances decline and become restricted. You're like, oh, now it makes sense. I see how my thought patterns are self-sabotaging. Do you see what I'm saying here? Things become clear regarding how you are. Your self-worth, your sense of self-worth or lack of, is causing financial deprivation. But it becomes clear because you see yourself criticizing yourself and causing financial deprivation. So, knowledge is power there. Work on upping the level of self-worth and self-value now while you can, so that you can deal with this stuff. In some cases, for people, their income can become restricted during this transit or capped a little at a certain level, and you can't seem to push past that boundary, and that might cause you to question your worth as well. Don't feel like, oh my God, my material life is doomed for the next 2.5 to 3 years. Not so. Some people make more money than ever when Saturn transits their second house. But this is largely associated with a feeling of worthiness, with their confidence, and with their outright hard work. So what I'm saying in a nutshell, use this transit to restructure, Saturn, your sense of confidence and your sense of self-worth, and watch your ability to generate material prosperity lift. Now, people who are by nature very indulgent and throw the money around, left, right, and center without much thought, they might suffer from debt now, or feelings of lack, like they don't have enough. Okay? So Saturn is calling us to be wise, to be responsible, to be mature, maybe even a little bit stingy with our money now, and he will pull us into line so that we do that. Financial responsibility while Saturn's in the second house is essential. It's time to make a budget, my friends, and to stick to it. Also, say no to gambling, high risk, and get-rich-quick schemes. They won't work while Saturn is here in the second house. Really, the focus with Saturn in the second house is on reward for effort. You put in the hard work, you know, act with confidence and do your duty, do what you've got to do, and all the goodness starts to flow to you in the material realm. That's how you do it when Saturn's in the second house. So my friends, thank you for sticking with me for this video. Remember, if you would like to know more about Saturn's transits through the houses, I have an extensive video series on my YouTube channel, Saturn's Transit Through the Houses. Check that out, find out more about what to expect, and good luck for the next 2.5 to 3 years of Saturn in Pisces.